Now, I'll ask the majority leader who will be leaving us shortly to ask his questions.
Thank you, Chair.
And we have exactly 5 minutes. So even as you ask the questions, 1 minute each.
Chair, let me thank the NCCK for their presentation. And I'll go straight to the question. One is on the Finance Act review of 2023 and the allegation on page 6 of their document for the executive and the legislature to stop the blatant disregard and disobedience of court orders. I would want to benefit from specifics. Which court orders has the legislature or the executive in the recent past blatantly disobeyed? And on the review of the Finance Act 2023, they say we reduce the tax burden. I would want to know what are the specific proposals in the Finance Act 2023 that they would want reviewed, and if they have estimated the quantum of what they call the tax burden on the 2023 tax proposals. Two, Chair, is on their recommendation regarding the IBC selection panel. I see they have actually analyzed very well the options that the country has, and they recommend that political parties should not play a role in this process, while in their final recommendation, they recommend the reconstitution of the panel, and in what they say is a win-win situation. Is that to say you want a panel, a new panel appointed without any representation of political parties? Does that include the political parties liaison committee? Would that include the Parliamentary Service Commission that has representation of political parties? And which other bodies would you be recommending to be represented in this panel to the exclusion of political parties? Lastly, Chair, is on the recommendation on the funds, NGCDF and the Senate oversight, and they say that establishment of these funds is inimical to the principle of separation of powers. I do not know if NCSK is aware that members of parliament do not implement anything to do with NGCDF, and the proposal by the Senate Oversight Fund is not for any implementation of funds. It's basically to enable senators to do their oversight work as espoused in the Constitution, Articles 94 to 96. Whereas for NGCDF, members of parliament do not, and maybe you may have based that argument on the old NGCDF Act. The reviewed NGCDF Act, members of parliament have absolutely no role. They are no longer patrons, they don't implement. Therefore, I want to get an understanding. How do you find it that members of parliament then, or senators, in view of the changes that have been there in the NGCDF Act and the proposal by the Senate for the Senate Oversight Fund, the same with GAF, the women reps have no role in implementation. These are funds established in the executive. Members of parliament play an oversight role over those funds and don't manage the funds. How then do you find that being inimical to the principle of separation of powers, with members of parliament, senators, and women reps having no role in those funds? Thank you.
You know, Kimani has given you a mouthful. I would suggest that you take notes. He's given you very many points, and since he is like in a hurry, in fact, Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichungwa, you know, the final recommendation by NCCK is a fear for a political settlement because of the rushed manner that we have to take into account. So if you could, one more comment or two more comments.
Yeah.
But I want to plead with you that you don't take it against the work of this committee. We do not. Actually, we had taken into account the need to go all over the country. And we realized because of 60 days time limit, we may not do justice by so doing. Therefore, we settled for the stakeholder engagement, which is what you are actually doing this morning, along with others. And since you represent over 37 million faithfuls, I'm quite sure you can understand when we tell you we do not have to go to the counties, to the wards, because we think that those are ably recommended. That's your final recommendation against a political settlement.
Thank you. And Your Excellency, you should have mentioned also the issue of the budget. We had no budget to do that. Well said.
mine is very, very short. You are pitching for a speedy reconstitution of the IEBC, and you are making a raft of recommendations on how the panel needs to be rejigged. But I want to ask you, first and foremost, what relationship does the NCCK, if at all, have with the body commonly known as Interreligious Council of Kenya, which, as we speak, under the current act, is represented at the IBC selection panel by 2 representatives? Are you, by any chance, a member or an affiliate of the Interreligious Council? And do you feel adequately represented by that body? Thank you.
Thank you. I think those are sufficient comments. Thank you. Over to you, Secretary General and the Chair. And you know, Chair, we must make a disclosure. We were together this Sunday, and thank you for the wonderful inspirational sermon. And you promised to come, but you were talking about when